This is Mandy Leon, and you are listening to another wrestling podcast.
It's time for another wrestling podcast.
The measuring stick just changed around here, buddy. You're looking at
the best there is, the best there was, and the best there ever will be.
They think they got the answers. I change the question.
The cream of the crop.
Nobody does it better.
These are the best in the world, brother. These are the best at what they do.
When we talk about the legends of the sport, there's only two in my book.
Another wrestling podcast.
Another wrestling podcast. Now can you dig that, sucker?
All right. Welcome to another wrestling podcast. I'm Steve Credo.
And I'm Jonathan Benjamin.
And this is episode 118. The streak continues, Jonathan. Yet another week, yet another show, yet another guest. Who is joining us this week?
Well, I would like to say that I could run out of adjectives to describe this beautiful, talented, and amazing woman, but I don't think I could. So it is none other than the amazing Mandy Leon that is going to be joining us today. Can't wait to talk to her about all the things she's got going on, and Ring of Honor, Northeast Wrestling, a little bit of everything.
A lot happened this week, too. A lot to get into. We do a special, unique topic each week, but we also have to talk about the week that was. Jonathan, this was the week that changed a new era. I mean, I guess they've been talking about a new era for the past few weeks. New era, a new era, a new era. Now we have kind of officially a new era with Raw and Smackdown having their own shows, their own rosters. I mean, having their own rosters. Jonathan, what did you think? Raw versus Smackdown, 3 hours versus 2 hours? Tell me about it. What'd you love? What'd you hate? What'd you think?
Well, Raw was pretty much straightforward. I think for the entirety of the show, there were 3 or 4 maybe highlights of it. I really enjoyed it, and I think that they started out with a bang. It was good because then everybody was saying, okay, now Raw happened and it was good, so SmackDown has to follow that. So SmackDown came and went, and I like SmackDown a lot. I probably like the roster on SmackDown more than I like the roster on Raw right now, but some big things happened. We'll get into that here in a minute, but as of right now, I'm liking that they're trying to kind of create competition between the two, because ultimately, we've talked about this before, competition helps the business, and even if you have to create the competition amongst yourself, it's still competition, and it was a good show. Both shows really produced, and I hope that they keep this trend going for a while. What was your thoughts? Did you feel that one was better than the other, or did you dislike them both?
Yeah, John, Raw was pretty much better than Battleground. I don't think we even need to talk about Battleground, because I think Raw and SmackDown pretty much just overshadowed the pay-per-view itself. Nothing crazy happened in that pay-per-view to even talk about. Raw, the debut of Finn Balor, wins not one match but 2 matches, and we'll talk about a little bit something else that he's in line for, but a lot of surprises on it, from the Women's Championship to Balor pinning Roman Reigns clean. A lot of the changing of the tide, the changing of the guard. Just when you think we're not going to see anything new and crazy, we got something new and crazy and something to entice the fans a little bit. So I liked it. I loved Raw. 3 hours went by pretty fast. And SmackDown, I think, it has its own still different little unique aspect, a little bit different. Okay, the announcers aren't at the top, they're at the bottom this time, and there's no ramp now, I guess. So it's going to be interesting, but I mean, I like it. I like it that the roster is split. I've been saying it for so long now to friends and, other people online, to where, the roster today is just like, there's an overabundance of talent to where, only a handful of guys can get the spotlight, to where you have a lot of other good guys that just will never see the light of day because of the time and, just the weekly things you have to do to get certain people, in the spotlight and the championship reign and all that stuff. So regardless, at the end of the day, Raw and SmackDown, I liked it. I can't wait for more. I can't wait to see what else they do. We just got a touch of it this week, so it's going to be interesting. And speaking of interesting, Jonathan, I almost mentioned it before, but I'll use this as my segue. The Universal Championship, Jonathan. Explain to me what the Universal Championship is.
I wish I could, but I don't think I can. So basically, since the WWE Championship is on SmackDown currently, Raw, to not be outdone, said, you know what, we're going to create the most confusing title out there. So you could be the world champion, or you could be the United States champion, or the Intercontinental champion, or you can just be the champion of the universe, which just sounds ridiculous. So I'm not a fan of the title, the Universal Champion, but I think that they definitely needed with the star power that they have on Raw, they definitely needed a main event championship. I just don't think that Universal is the way to go. So we saw that it's going to be none other than Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins at SummerSlam for the very first Universal Championship. I am waiting to see what this belt looks like, if it's going to look a lot like what the one on SmackDown looks like, or if they're going to redo it. There's been supposed leaked, concept photos. One kind of looks like the old Winged Eagle. The other one looks like the one they have on SmackDown. But so far, I'm not impressed with the name or what they've shown us so far. But what do you think? I don't know, man. I'm not a huge fan of the idea of a champion of the universe.
Well, it's not universe, it's universal. So I'm trying. It's still growing on me. When I first heard it, I was like, universal. It's like. I think they should have stuck with like an older name, to where they could have just had the Undisputed, or just plain old World Champion, whether you have to redesign the belt or not. I get that they want to just stray away from that title, and I'm sure Vince wants to be in control of his own new title. And it's like, so basically, are you saying you're basically a glorified TV champ then? I mean, because he said it's for them out there. It's for the WWE Universe. But then it's not really universe. It's Universal Championship. So it's confusing. I mean, what a time Cody Rhodes could have been here. He could have been the Cosmic Universal Champion. That would have been crazy. But yeah, it's still. I mean, I think it'll grow on me. Maybe I have to see it though. I got to see it, but. I don't know. It's one of those things to where it's still like that. We don't even know what it looks like for real yet. So I have no idea. But when you compare it, so I'm the WWE Universal Champion and I'm the WWE Heavyweight Champion. What line of like importance? I mean, I'm sure. Granted, I know the WWE Championship is always going to be number one, but. Is this technically on the same level as it? Is it a step below it? Is it below the Intercontinental Championship? I know they have. I know that they said that they needed their heavyweight title on there or whatever. But still, I don't know. I guess I don't know. Somebody must have said Universal and they really loved it, and yeah, so they're sticking with it. But I guess I don't know. Time's gonna have to pass till we see it, to see what they do with it, and just see what happens. But I mean. Just by, I don't know. It's the name. It's like I love it, but I hate it. But I think it'll grow on me. But at the same time, I'm like, where does it stand? You know what I mean? To where I'm still not even sure where the Intercontinental Championship stands, because it's like, are you just the champion of not the water or whatever, or the Intercontinental? I don't know. It's kind of confusing, but I guess we had more. I wish we had more clarity. I guess at the end of the day, to where this is exactly what this champion is. So we have the WWE Champion, now the WWE Universal Champion. I don't know. I guess time's going to have to wait and settle on that to see what happens. But right now, I don't know. But at the end of the day, we're going to have Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins to see who's going to be the first Universal Champion. Who do you think's going to win that? Real quick, a quick preview for SummerSlam, if you will. Quick prediction.
I am going not out on a limb, but I'm just going to say that they want to keep this momentum going. Right now, they want people to keep guessing and all that stuff. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say the first Universal Champion is going to be Finn Balor. And I hope that is the case, but I'm happy with either one of these guys.
No, yeah, I would say the same thing, only because I think Seth Rollins' resume of championships is pretty much, crazy right now. He does not need another one. I don't think he even needs to be the first one. It's just he's had too many in such a little bit of time that he just needs to span it out a little bit now. So I think giving it to Finn Balor will definitely help elevate him more. And, keep that momentum going. So, yeah, we're on the same page with that, Jonathan. So Finn Balor could be the first Universal Champion. But what do you think about happened on Smackdown? Now, on Smackdown, they had a number one contenders match, and Dolph Ziggler is now the number one contender for the WWE Heavyweight Championship. Is it Dolph's time again, Jonathan? Or what's going to happen with this?
I think that this is the best thing that they can do, and I don't want to say that they're pandering to the audience because I really like what's happening, but I think that right out of the gate, you're seeing Finn Balor and you're seeing Dolph Ziggler in the championship picture, which, a couple of years ago, this wasn't the case. And I like the direction that WWE is going, and I think a lot of fans out there are, but it almost seems like it's too good to be true. You know what I mean? It seems like they're giving us exactly what we want just so maybe later they can take it out from under us. I hate to think that way, and I really don't think that that's entirely going to be the case, but I think Ziggler is due for another run as champion, and hopefully that he gets it. And if I would have talked to you 6 months ago and said, hey, guess what's going to happen at SummerSlam? We're going to have Orton versus Lesnar. We're going to have Finn Balor versus Seth Rollins. And we're going to have, Dolph Ziggler versus Ambrose for a title, like you would have laughed at me. So I think they're headed in the right direction. And I hope that Dolph gets, his credit, because the guy goes out there and, he says it and it's totally believable. He's the hardest working guy out there. He dares somebody to prove him wrong. And I have yet to see somebody who can work better than Dolph Ziggler.
That's right. And, at the end of the day, I feel like, the championship has to go for people, who've paid their dues, who've earned it. Dolph Ziggler has more than earned it, from putting over all these guys, just putting on incredible matches day after day, week after week. Out of anybody, I think he deserves it more than Dean Ambrose right now. Now, don't get me wrong, Dean's great, but I feel like his character is not a character that really needs a championship, you know what I mean? To where I don't think he really did anything for the United States Championship. He never really did anything for the IC belt. And now the world title, it's like, but he's the unstable one. He doesn't really need a championship. He should just go out there, kick some ass, and call it a day. I mean, him having a belt around him doesn't do anything, I feel. It doesn't do anything for the championship or to advance any other champion. So I really, really hope they give Dolph Ziggler this championship just to spread it, to spread the wealth, if you will, because I think for the past few years, it's been Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, and Dean Ambrose right now. I feel like we're in this Shield triangle love fest of the championship, and I feel like there's other guys that they could be putting this on and elevating. And now with this brand split, going back full circle, this brand split I feel is going to help out guys like Dolph Ziggler, hopefully Cesaro on Raw, Kevin Owens, all these guys, to where maybe they might not have been able to or been given a championship match, but now since the split roster, they'll probably elevate it even more and closer to being a world champion. So we'll see how that happens. But at the end of the day, man, I really hope they give it to Dolph Ziggler, and just for everything he's done. So I would really like to see a Dolph Ziggler reign, because he had a very short one. So he cashed it in, had a very short reign, and then had a forfeit, right? I believe he was injured for a concussion and then had to give it up. So I think the man deserves it, especially for how long he's been in there. And like I said, he paid his dues. He deserves to be a champion. So we'll see what happens and see if they can get the belts away from the Shield, if you will, for a little bit. So, but there's a lot of other things that have been happening. We had a women's championship match on Raw. The new women's champion is Sasha Banks. Jonathan, I thought this was going to happen at SummerSlam. I thought they would have waited, but they pulled the trigger and put it on Raw. And man, that was the main event. That match was solid. That was, I don't think anybody could have followed that. Even with Finn Balor wrestling twice on Raw, I think that women's match was probably the main event of the night.
Yeah, the boss came out and did what she does best. A lot of people are behind her right now, and I think that it was time. Charlotte was good, and I appreciate her contributions. I'm not the biggest fan of just her character in general, but Sasha's really gotten people to talk about professional wrestling and women's wrestling in general. And I'm proud of her, and I think that she's going to be a great champion. I think she's one of those people that came from the very bottom. She worked her way up on the independents. She got noticed. She did everything right, and it's always good whenever something like this happens. It's like one of those fairy tale stories where you come from nothing and then you end up being the princess or whatever. So I'm very proud of what she's accomplished and what she still has left to accomplish. So I'm looking forward to seeing. I would imagine that they'll have the rematch at SummerSlam, or maybe even try to make it like a triple threat or something. So congratulations to Sasha for sure.
Now, going back to this brand split, Jonathan, since SmackDown has the World Heavyweight Championship, Raw created the Universal Heavyweight Championship. I don't know what they're going to really officially call it, but now the Women's Champion is on Raw. There's a lot of women over on SmackDown. Do you think they're going to create a Women's Championship for SmackDown, or, dare I say, bring back the Divas Championship? I don't know. I hope that doesn't happen. Bite my tongue on that one. But do you think we'll have two women's champions then too, or what?
Yeah, I don't think that that's going to happen right away. If they decide to do it, it's probably going to take a while, but it just doesn't make sense right now. Then you've got like so many different belts and titles and championships that it just doesn't make sense. So I am hoping that the women it ends up being the women's champion will be able to go from show to show because that's the only way that it really makes sense to me. But anything can happen really in the WWE. So let's see what happens. But for right now, I don't want there to be two championships.
Sure, and with that whole split though, it's gonna be interesting because right now, if my calculations are correct, Raw will have the Universal Championship, the Women's Championship, has the Tag Team Championship, and the United States Championship, and could possibly in the near future have the Cruiserweight Championship, all on Raw. Now on SmackDown, we have the WWE Heavyweight Championship and the Intercontinental Championship, and that's it. So I'm kind of curious of what they're going to do, if they're going to split the championships like they did years ago with the brand split, to where each show has their own champions. Because I think even Shane McMahon even said it, they're splitting the pay-per-views. So SmackDown's going to have their pay-per-views and Raw's going to have their pay-per-views. So maybe they didn't want to let the cats out of the bag all at once, to where maybe they'll save that for their own pay-per-views, to where they'll have a match for their own championship. But I don't know. I think it's going to lead down the road of splitting the belts, and each show has their own champion. So it'll be interesting, I guess. Needless to say, I think they're going to focus on this Universal Championship for now. But one last thing in this week, Jonathan, because it was one of the biggest weeks that was, we're having some returns. They showed a vignette for Shelton Benjamin, who is coming soon. He's not just returning, he's coming soon. And Rhino is on SmackDown. What do you think about that, Jonathan? Do you think we're going to see more guys? And if we do, is their only purpose to be on television again to put over the younger wrestlers, the younger generation? Because I don't really see Rhino coming in and having a run at the championship, or, Shelton Benjamin, I don't know, doing whatever. I feel like these guys are not necessarily past their prime, but I don't know. They brag about it's a new era, but now you're bringing back all these old guys, and what purpose are they going to serve?
Yeah, it's one of those things that I'm excited to see because these guys, Rhino's got to be in his early 40s. A lot of those ECW guys are. And, these aren't the only people that are possibly coming back. There's a long list of people that are rumored. We've got Carlito, Kurt Hawkins, MVP, Melina. The list goes on and on and on. I think that they have to be used in the right way. No one wants these people to come back, these former heroes of ours, to come back just to lose. So I think that what they did with Rhino down in NXT was great. He, won some matches. He helped people get over. And all in all, he helped the world of professional wrestling. So as long as those sorts of things happen, I'm totally for this. It'll be great nostalgia to see some of these people come back. I heard even Jinder Mahal is coming back. So possibly two-man band reunite. But if we could only get Drew McIntyre back, then we would have the original three-man band. But, yeah, I want this to happen, and I'm excited because, these people are coming home to me. A lot of these people have been out on the indies and they've done very well for themselves, but now they can come back to the WWE where they're back on a global stage and everybody will be able to see them and it'll help wrestling once again. So I can't wait for it. I hope that they just keep finding new people to bring back. Well, we talked a lot today about everything that's going on in the world of professional wrestling, but without further ado, she's here with us right now, the one, the only, Mandy Leon.
Queen of Honor.
Joining us right now is one of the fastest rising women's wrestlers today. She wrestles all over and is a mainstay in Ring of Honor. Keep an eye out on her because her stock is rising. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the exotic goddess, Mandy Leon. Thanks for joining us today. How you doing?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So I want to get right into this. I know you're very busy, and I just want to kind of get into the beginning a little bit. So for anybody that's listening out there that may not know about you or your story, how did you decide that you wanted to get into professional wrestling? Was there one moment? Was there something that you saw on TV? Like, how did you decide this is what I got to do?
It's a funny story. When I was younger, my mom and my family watched wrestling a lot. My mom was a huge fan of, like Hulk Hogan, The Rock, who she still is obsessed with. So I watched a lot of wrestling with them, but it didn't really fully click. Like, I was a fan, but I wasn't fully invested until I started seeing the women's wrestlers. For me, it was Chyna and Lita and Trish Stratus. And even the early stages of Chyna, just her presence alone, and to see her evolution on who she became, and just everything about her stuck out to me. And then Lita and Trish and all these feuds that were happening, and I was just staring at these women being, they were so powerful in the ring, and it was inspiring for me as a little girl, and it was something that I knew I wanted to do, to where I would literally spend hours watching wrestling, spending hours playing, the WWE games and making my own characters and just being a total nerd. But, and I decided, that's something that I wanted to do. And, as growing up, people kind of try to persuade you and kind of lean you away to doing other things with your life. But I just felt like it was something I was meant to do. So I saved up all of the money that I could. People assume that I started out modeling and acting and transitioned into wrestling. That was never the case. Wrestling was always my number one dream. I did all of the extra stuff in the industry to raise that money for my training at Ring of Honor, which I was lucky enough to get into. But that's kind of how I was inspired, and just followed my dreams from there and been focused on it.
Now, what was your childhood like? Were you into athletics at an early age?
I was pretty athletic. Growing up in high school and everything, I played volleyball. I was on the swim team. I loved basketball. I even did, my sister coached mat wrestling in high school as well. So I would go to some of her training sessions and learn some mat stuff with her. But yeah, I guess you can say I was pretty athletic.
Okay, awesome. Now, if I'm correct, you are from the East Coast.
I am. I was born in Brooklyn, New York.
Okay.
I spent most of my life I've spent growing up in Pennsylvania. Most of my family from New York came out here, so I'm currently based out of Pennsylvania.
Okay, so there's obviously a lot of professional wrestling around in the United States, but more specifically here in the Northeast. So, as a child, you said you watched a lot of it. Did you actually get to go to any of the shows when you were growing up?
Oh, no, unfortunately I didn't when I was younger. Yeah, I think my first live wrestling show, oh God, it was in Hershey, Pennsylvania. I didn't get to do any of the New York shows, which is a complete bummer. But yeah, and that was, oh God, maybe 10 years ago, I want to say, maybe 10 years ago. So yeah, unfortunately I didn't get to see it as a kid live, but I was glued to my TV.
How did you go about finding a school to get trained?
For me, I didn't ever want to take the easy way out of anything. It was, like I said, this has been a goal of mine and a dream since I was a little girl. So I didn't know much about independent wrestling. So for me, it was just doing my research. And in doing my research, I found, luckily, Ring of Honor was only an hour drive from me. And that's the first thing I always tell people when you want to get started is you have to find a school with a good name to them and a good reputation, and that's really going to help you. Unfortunately, there's a lot of schools out there that just kind of say, hey, we're going to toss you in here for 6 months of training, and you're going to go out there and make your debut and do what you got to do. Again, luckily for me, I met with Ring of Honor. The head trainer there is Delirious, and I didn't make my debut until about a little bit over a year of training. I wanted to make sure I was TV ready and that my first match was going to be excellent. And that's how Ring of Honor is in general. They won't let any of their students debut until they know that they're excellent and that they're going to be good. I always say that anybody who ever asks me for advice, I say you have to do your research. You have to just not jump into anything and take the time to really find a school in your area that has a good reputation and good trainers that are really going to help you furthering your career and get you far. And like I said in the beginning, I never wanted to take the easy way out. You know, of course, WWE's goal and my big dream, but I didn't want to just jump into it. I wanted to have the training, and I wanted to make a name for myself and to become someone to make an impact on the indie scene. So that's what I did.
Well, that's amazing. Now, whenever you were training, obviously there's more than just like one thing that you have to learn. There's, the actually wrestling aspect of it, and like you said, being ring ready and working on, I'm sure, facials and trying to come up with a character and all that stuff. Do you remember like specifically what you felt? Things that came easy to you as far as training goes, and then maybe something that was the most difficult thing for you to learn?
Gosh, that's a good question. I've been told that naturally, everything as far as the athleticism and the move sets and all of that goes, I was just naturally very good at, and I picked up right away. Immediately. I think the one thing I had to work on, and I'm still working on, you never stop learning, is just, I would say, facials and selling and, promos, things like that was more of the things that I spent time on. And they always say, like, if you grew up a fighter, you just have those fighter instincts, but I never grew up a fighter. So for me, that's a learning experience, is learning how to react in certain situations and, playing that role. It's like Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels is known for like being the selling king, right? So I'm still learning that to this day. It's a process. You never stop learning. But that was, I was naturally great at the athleticism and the movesets, but promo-wise and everything else, I'm still working on that to this day.
Now, who do you base your character off of?
Women-wise, for sure. It's definitely the presence and the attitude and the overall aura that China had. Everything from my gear and, it's all inspired by her because she's what really originally caught my eye. So I try to portray her. Obviously, I'm not the big, tough bodybuilder type, but I kind of pull pieces from China, Lita, and Trish And I always say that because those are the three girls that have impacted me the most. So that's where I am right now. I'm trying to bring a little bit of that attitude back. And the way women's wrestling is going right now, I think you'll be seeing a lot more of it, especially in Women of Honor. As Women of Honor starts building more characters and more storylines out, you'll definitely see some changes in me.
Well, that's something I wanted to definitely bring up. Now, obviously, women's wrestling over, I would say, I mean, this has been a slow build, but obviously over the past 2 to 3 years, women's wrestling has really kind of went through a boom period once again, and a lot of people are more interested in it than they've ever been before. What do you think has really started this boom, and what do you think still can be done to help promote the growth of women's wrestling?
Honestly, I think right now, like you said, it's at a complete high, and people are so invested in it, and it's complete evolution. For me, and I'm speaking in terms of the Women of Honor locker room since it's starting now, and I'm helping out a lot with it. The first thing I tell women in this company specifically is, we're family here. We're not the girls who attack each other. We're not the girls who step on each other to get further ahead in the business. We work together. It takes two to tango, and that's what we do. It's a very positive locker room, and outside or any other locker room, I'm the same way. I always tell girls, we're competitive in that ring, but we need to work together. There's no reason to try to hurt someone, hurt someone's reputation or anything like that. And I think the more and more women empowerment that there is, and the more and more women work together, we're going to continue, which is what we have been seeing, and why it is working out so well is everyone is working together for the same goal. And the more that we empower each other, the more and more this is going to build and just be a huge thing. And again, stemming from Women of Honor, that's kind of why this is taking off and being so phenomenal. I had no idea that yesterday was our 1 year mark that the match that Deanna and I had that kind of revamped the Women of Honor division and started it. And that wasn't even our intentions. Of course, that was our goal to kind of bring it back, but we never knew that overnight one match on YouTube that was just supposed to be an internet exclusive match would blow up and have so many views, which led into us trying it out and having 2 or 3 more matches. And those matches almost had 1 million views. I'm talking like, if you go on our YouTube page, the top 20 matches in YouTube history that we have on Ring of Honor right now, about 3 or 4 of them are Women of Honor matches. And that's over CM Punk matches, Mojo matches, Bryan Danielson matches. So it's really blowing up. I know I'm kind of scattering out, but, to answer your question, it kind of is that. You just need to have that women empowerment and work together. And I think the more and more the women in the industry learn that and do that, the more and more it's going to take off. It really is.
What do you believe sets you apart from all the other women's wrestlers out there right now?
I think the one thing that's always separated me from everyone else, and I've always been seen as the girl who comes in, does her job, gives her best, and leaves. I've never fed into the drama. I've never fed into rumors. I've never fed into fights. That's just never been me. I've always been a very positive person. And that's what's ultimately has brought me opportunities and has separated me from everyone else. Was I'm known as that person. I'm known as the girl who needs to be respected. I'm known as the girl who walks in, you shake her hand. She's here for business. This is something that means the world to me. So it's kind of like none of the negative energy is brought to me. Aside from that, I feel like I do have, character-wise, I have my own look. I have a look that's not really out there. I have a name that's never been used in the business. I mean, besides now, Mandy Rose has it and Tough Enough or whatever. But it's different things that separate you. I'm a very spiritual person. So for me, it's just my overall aura. Character-wise, on camera, you can look at me and you see that I'm this exotic, mysterious person who you don't really know what they're going to do yet next. But at times, I'm also this, goofy little innocent person. And I think that shows a lot. It's going to start showing a lot more the more and more you see me, especially in Women of Honor. But again, I'm that person. But when I get in the ring and the bell rings, I'm completely athletic and I'm going to fight you and I'm going to win the match. So when it gets down to it, I think that's kind of what separates me the most. I'm very driven and I have my mind right. I'll keep it at that. I have my mind right.
Awesome. Well, we've been fortunate enough to, being based out of the Northeast, to see you on several occasions wrestle, whether it be for Northeast Wrestling or even Ring of Honor. Where has wrestling taken you so far in the scheme of the United States and the world, and where are some places that you hope to eventually get to wrestle?
Right now, I haven't been doing this very long. I've only been doing this with training included for going on 5 years. I made my debut in 2014, excuse me. So in the midst of that time, I really have gotten a ton of opportunities, which I'm so blessed for. Right now, I'm mainly working out of Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. I'm kind of just up and down there every other weekend. Luckily for me, with Women of Honor now and Ring of Honor, that's where I've gotten my opportunities the most to travel around the United States. I've been to California, Texas, Vegas, Tennessee, and Florida. It's awesome to be able to have those opportunities and to meet new fans and make new fans and meet current fans. My goal right now is I really want to wrestle in Japan. I do. I really, really want to go to Japan. I've been in discussion with a few of the promoters out there who want to bring me in. It's just a matter of timing, and I do see myself going out there very soon, within the next few months. Also, Ring of Honor has a UK tour coming up in November, which a little secret here. I think some of the Women of Honor will be traveling to that. So maybe you'll see me in the UK. I don't know.
What do you believe sets you apart from all the other women's wrestlers out there right now?
I think the one thing that's always separated me from everyone else, and I've always been seen as the girl who comes in, does her job, gives her best, and leaves. I've never fed into the drama. I've never fed into rumors. I've never fed into fights. That's just never been me. I've always been a very positive person. And that's what's ultimately has brought me opportunities and has separated me from everyone else. So I'm known as that person. I'm known as the girl who needs to be respected. I'm known as the girl who walks in, you shake her hand. She's here for business. This is something that means the world to me. So it's kind of like none of the negative energy is brought to me. Aside from that, I feel like I do have, character-wise, I have my own look. I have a look that's not really out there. I have a name that's never been used in the business. I mean, besides now, Mandy Rose has it and tough enough, but whatever. But it's different things that separate you. I'm a very spiritual person. So for me, it's just my overall aura. Character-wise, on camera, you can look at me and you see that I'm this exotic, mysterious person who you don't really know what they're going to do yet next. But at times, I'm also this, goofy little innocent person. And I think that shows a lot. It's going to start showing a lot more the more and more you see me, especially in Women of Honor. But again, I'm that person, but when I get in the ring and the bell rings, I'm completely athletic and I'm going to fight you and I'm going to win the match. So when it gets down to it, I think that's kind of what separates me the most. I'm very driven and I have my mind right. I'll keep it at that. I have my mind right.
Awesome. Well, we've been fortunate enough to, being based out of the Northeast, to see you on several occasions wrestle, whether it be for Northeast Wrestling or even Ring of Honor. Where has wrestling taken you so far in the scheme of the United States and the world, and where are some places that you hope to eventually get to wrestle?
Right now, I haven't been doing this very long. I've only been doing this with training included for going on 5 years. I made my debut in 2014, excuse me. So in the midst of that time, I really have gotten a ton of opportunities, which I'm so blessed for. Right now, I'm mainly working out of Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut. I'm kind of just up and down there every other weekend. Luckily for me, with Women of Honor now and Ring of Honor, that's where I've gotten my opportunities the most to travel around the United States. I've been to California, Texas, Vegas, Tennessee, and Florida. It's awesome to be able to have those opportunities and to meet new fans and make new fans and meet current fans. my goal right now is I really want to wrestle in Japan. I do. Like, I really, really want to go to Japan. I've been in discussion with a few of the promoters out there who want to bring me in. It's just a matter of timing, and I do see myself going out there very soon, within the next few months. Also, Ring of Honor has a UK tour coming up in November, which, a little secret here, I think some of the Women of Honor will be traveling to that. So maybe you'll see me in the UK. I don't know.
That's awesome. Now, you mentioned the independent wrestling earlier, and how important it was to you. What does a company like Northeast Wrestling mean to you when, a lot of the people they bring in are former legends or, big names, and then you guys get kind of thrown into the mix, and like, what does a company like that mean to you over the years, being able to wrestle for them?
Northeast Wrestling is awesome. I always say they are a second home to me, because it's beautiful to me, because the promoter, Mike Lombardi, he has women's wrestling going in there every now and then, but it's kind of like Women of Honor. They never really had a lot of independent women in and out of there, a lot like they do with their guys. So right now you're seeing a lot more of that in that company. You're seeing a lot more women's matches coming in, along with former TNA and WWE talent too. There's independent girls who are wrestling there now. So that's really cool. As far as opportunities go with them, it's been tremendous. I never thought, 2 years later in the business, that I'd be the only female on a flyer with Mick Foley, Jerry the King Lawler, Ricky Steamboat, all these guys that I would have never imagined it. So, and I actually had, where were we? I think it was in New York. And I was the only female on the flyer with all of the WWE legends and TNA legends. And I'm just an independent wrestler right now, like, who am I to be on the flyer with these guys? And Mick Foley sat down and talked to me and just kind of, told me how proud he is of me. And he gave me good conversation. And, they've given me so many opportunities, like even the show coming up this weekend and throughout August, Kurt Angle versus Cody Rhodes. Who would have thought you'd be on that same card? You know what I mean? Especially as a woman. So they've given me a lot of beautiful opportunities, and I'm very thankful for them.
Lightning round.
Do you currently have a favorite match that you've competed in?
I think my most recent match that's a favorite of mine, it would have to be wrestling Gail Kim, which I did about a month and a half ago, or 2 months maybe. That was an amazing experience. She's such a beautiful woman, super humble, and that was a great match for me. Outside of that, independent wrestling wise, I would say my recent match that I had, it was just aired on TV. It was Mandy Leon versus Hanaya the Huntress on the first Women of Honor TV episode. That has to be one of my favorite matches that I've had to this day. Yeah, for sure.
All right. Favorite women's wrestler out there right now?
Oh, gosh. Currently, I'm going to have to give props to, I'm going to say Sasha Banks.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to say Sasha Banks.
Last movie you saw in a theater?
The last movie that I saw, that is a good question. I hardly go to the movies. Oh, man, I don't remember. I'm not going to lie. I think it was Sisters, the Sisters movie. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty boring.
All right. If all the stars aligned and you could have your very own dream match, who would you want to wrestle?
If I could have my very own dream match, who could I wrestle? Is this
living,
past or current wrestler?
Living, passed away, any wrestler ever?
I would say Trish Stratus.
Okay.
The most embarrassing song on your iPod right now?
This is a song that gets me in a good mood no matter what. It's Belle Biv DeVoe's Poison.
That is an amazing song.
That's embarrassing. But yeah, that's my most embarrassing song that I gladly blast every day. I do, not gonna lie.
We talked about it a little bit, but this Saturday you will be wrestling for Northeast Wrestling. You're going to be at the Rumble in Rockland, Saturday, July 30th at 7 p.m. you are actually teaming with Cam, and you're going against Deonna Purrazzo and Damian Adams with Velvet Sky as a guest referee. What do you have to say to your opponents come this Saturday?
Oh, you know what? We've worked together, I think, 1 or 2 times already in the past, and Cam's a phenomenal tag team partner, and we've won our last matches. We've never lost. We are on a streak. So, love you, Deonna and Damian, but, they're going to lose again. Sorry.
Is there anything that may happen with Velvet? Do you think that she's planning on getting involved somehow, or do you think she'll call it right down the middle?
Well, Velvet and I did tag team a few months ago against Deonna and Jessica Havoc. So Velvet does have some heat with Deonna, so I'm hoping she'll be in my corner if anything goes down. I think if there's going to be any involvement, I'm hoping she'll have my back.
Well, this is going to be a can't-miss show. It's at the Palisades Credit Union Park in Pomona, New York, and you can check out all the information on northeastwrestling.com. And be sure to get there. There'll be a meet and greet before, and you can meet all the stars, including Mandy. It'll be amazing. And other than that, do you have any other events coming up soon that you want to talk about?
I do. Besides this weekend, August 13th, I will be with NEW in Bethany, Connecticut. August 26th, I will be in Pittsfield, Massachusetts, which is featuring myself. Michael Bennett, Mick Foley, Jerry the King Lawler, Jushin Thunder Liger, Matt and Jeff Hardy, and Cody Rhodes. And then the following night, I'm trying to see here. Oh, yes, August 27th in Wappingers Falls, New York. It's the big Kurt Angle versus Cody Rhodes match. So I'll be there as well. I'm really excited for that.
Social media has taken over the world. Where can fans keep up with you today?
I do have an official Pro Wrestling Tees store. It's just ProWrestlingTees.com/Mandy Leon. I'm on Twitter at MandyLeonXO. I'm on Instagram at Mandy Leon. And I'm on Facebook at Mandy LeonXO as well. So thanks for following me, and I appreciate everybody's support. This was fun.
Awesome. Well, we have one. This is the most important question. When you are, we've got this big meet and greet coming up, and you've got a lot of shows. What is the one thing that fans can bring you? We talked to Matt Seidel. He likes fresh fruit. What are things that fans can bring you? Of course he does. Yeah. What are some things that if fans want to get on your good side that they can bring to you?
All right. Well, I'm not going to be a health freak with mine like Matt. I'm going to be a little goofy with mine. I will say Nerdy Mandy will accept Swedish fish or anything Britney Spears related. How about that?
That is amazing. And we'll see what we can dig up for you.
Yes, there you go.
Well, we want to thank you, the very well-spoken and amazing Mandy Leon. We can't wait to see you this weekend and in all the future shows that you have coming up. We wish you nothing but the best, and just can't wait to see what else you have in store.
Thank you so much for having me. I had a blast. And if you find me this weekend, I'll probably be running around like a mad woman, but we'll get an interview in. And this time, I believe the last time we talked, Matt Taven was stalking me.
He did. He hijacked the interview. He really did.
Yeah, he definitely stalked me a whole ton. So we'll get our payback.
Awesome. Awesome.
Today's show is brought to you by... Have you ever dreamed of being a professional wrestler? Then the Platinum Fitness Professional Wrestling School is the school you want. Located in Danbury, Connecticut, and led by Randy Sean Lockwood, a pro wrestler with over 15 years experience. Randy brings his passion for wrestling, as well as his vast knowledge to the school, with many guest trainers to enhance your knowledge, skill, and performance. If you're looking to make your dreams a reality inside the squared circle, then the Platinum Fitness Professional Wrestling School is your best choice. Call 203-628-7757 or visit PlatinumFitnessCT.com for more information.
This is your Olympic hero, Kurt Angle, and you're listening to another wrestling podcast in association with Celeb VM. Order a personal video message from me and many other wrestlers and celebrities now. Oh, it's true. It's damn true.
That's right. Head on over to celebvm.com/AWP.
Get a personal video message for yourself or as a gift for someone else. For for personal connections, shout-outs, birthdays, proposals, weddings, and much more. Enter your details about yourself so the celebrity can record a personal video message especially for you, including details such as your name, age, birthday, hobbies, or whatever else you include. As soon as the video has been recorded, you'll get an email with your link so you can share it on social media or download and keep it. Celebrities record videos as and when they can, usually within 2 weeks. But if you want a video for a specific date and it does not look like it will arrive in time, you can cancel it and get an instant refund at the click of a button. There are hundreds of celebrities to choose from and many more joining every day. Search by category or genre. Buy a gift voucher, get updates and offers, and encourage your favorite celebrities to join so they can connect with fans in a fun and unique way. Raise money for their charities and much more. So order your video now for yourself or for someone else.
Celebrity video messages and another wrestling podcast team up. Be sure to head on over to celebvm.com/AWP.
See Kurt Angle, Cody Rhodes, and the Hardy Boys live as Northeast Wrestling and the Hudson Valley Renegades present Wrestling Under the Stars at Dutchess Stadium in Wappingers Falls, New York, Saturday, August 27th. See Kurt Angle battle Cody Rhodes. Jeff Hardy takes on Japanese legend Jushin Liger, plus Matt Hardy, Jerry Lawler, Hornswoggle, The Now, and much more. Autograph session with all the stars before the matches. Tickets start at only $20, available now at northeastwrestling.com and the Dutchess Stadium box office. See the Hardy Boys, Kurt Angle, Cody Rhodes, and more live at Dutchess Stadium on August 27th. Visit northeastwrestling.com for more info.
All right, now what makes us a unique show if you're our first-time listener is that we're a topical show. We like to pick a different topic each week. So whether you listen to episode 1 or 118, you're going to hear a different topic on each show. We're not going to just talk about what happened during the week on what show or Raw or Smackdown or whatever you're watching. We try to come up with a unique topic. Now, on episode 44, we did the show, hashtag Give Divas a Chance. Now, it's been quite a while since that show, since we're on episode 118. A lot of things have changed. Back then, we had divas. Now, they don't really call them divas, even though they're still total divas on E and whatnot. But, Jonathan, the divas have gone to women. Since that show, that whole Divas Revolution, it kind of got started a little bit, and then it just kind of went away. And then when more girls moved up from NXT, it kind of got back on track. And then at WrestleMania, we got to see the debut of the Women's Championship again, and gone are the days of the Divas Championship. So we're out of a Divas Revolution into a Women's Revolution, if you will. A lot of things have been happening for the women in wrestling. What do you have to say?
Well, I think that nothing happens overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day, and I think that this hashtag Give Divas a Chance thing that happened was the spark to kind of ignite this whole Divas Revolution. A lot of people are taking credit for it. I think that even back, like AJ Lee needs to be given some credit for this. She kind of started making things interesting again. Paige needs to be given some credit for this. People grew tired of the same old stuff. There was an era when women used to wrestle, back whenever Fabulous Moolah, Mae Young, Wendy Richter, all of that. And then it stopped for a while. And then it was brought back, and we had, Medusa and Alondra Blaze and all those people. And wrestling was good again. But then they went to this kind of diva situation where it was more like bikini matches, bra and panty matches, pillow fights, which, don't get me wrong, it had its place, but, the rumbling started and people decided that they really wanted to see women's wrestling and see what women can do. And I also want to attribute it to a lot of the awesome women that are out there on the independent scene, busting their butts every weekend in and week out, to make women's wrestling good. And, Veda Scott, we've got Candice LeRae. There's so many amazing women that are out there right now that aren't getting the credit that they deserve, that are also fueling this Divas Revolution or this women's revolution. So a lot has happened, and I feel like more people are talking about it and more people are watching it. It's not something to be ashamed of anymore. These women are superb athletes, and it is just it's time. You know what I mean? Like, it's 2016, the very first time that we've had a woman is the possible president. So it makes total sense that women are back in the forefront in professional wrestling again.
No, definitely. It's been a long road back. Like you said, they were stuck in that little rut for a while with the divas, and a lot of people, I think they wanted more out of it, because I understand that WWE had the divas and TNA had the knockouts, and we couldn't just call them women, So everybody wanted to brand them in their own ways, but I think, especially now with the kind of athletes these women are, it's rightfully, to be the women's championship, women's division. I really just hope they don't go back to anything called divas. Even like from Monday Night Raw, look at that match that Sasha and Charlotte had. Amazing. I didn't watch that match and be like, oh, it's a women's match. I was like, these two athletes were, it was a main event, man. It was a main event on Raw. I thought, what a match. And it was like, it's like, this is what these girls can do. I'm sorry, I keep going back and forth. Girls, women, you know what I mean? Look at what these women can do. It's not just the guys out there. These girls are putting on better matches. I don't know. I can't stick with the girls and women. I'm sorry, I keep going back and forth. But these girls and women are doing, things that some of the guys out there can't even do. It was one hell of a match, and that's the thing about it, is that if they give them the chance, if they give them that little bit of a spotlight, these are the kind of results you're going to get. And man, not one thing about that match was I like, is it over yet? Or the old the marks out there saying, oh, it's bathroom break, I'm going to miss this, It used to be a joke. It used to be 2 to 3 minute matches, squash matches, or just silly, stupid matches to where, okay, they got a chance to showcase a few minutes, and that was it. Then they would leave. I should look up the exact time of what this match was, but regardless, it was... it was a pay-per-view quality match. I'm surprised that wasn't on Battleground, but it's that of giving them the chance, of giving them the spotlight is what they need, and that's what I think is making women's wrestling great again. And it's just been an uphill battle to where they started from the bottom, now they're on the top, and I just hope they keep moving forward with full steam ahead. It's been great, and I think they have a lot more to showcase. I think there's a lot more women backstage that can still do just as much as these two did on Raw, if not more. And it's going to be interesting, needless to say, over the next few months and years to see what they actually do with this split roster in the WWE at least. But, even Ring of Honor with the Women of Honor, it's just great to see women showcased a lot more in pro wrestling today.
Well, and this kind of brings us up to what's happening now, and I want to thank Triple H and I'm assuming Vince and Stephanie and everybody for kind of loosening the reins a little bit on the way that business is done in professional wrestling. So before, if you weren't contracted, then you couldn't come in, but this is allowing a lot of people like Deonna Purrazzo, and we saw Britt Baker on Raw the other day going against Nia Jax. We get to see these women who you wouldn't get to see unless you went to a local indie show, now thrust into the spotlight, and it's great business for everybody all around, and I think it's awesome. But there's still things that could be done to change women's wrestling and to put it in the forefront. We see this happening with Ring of Honor. They're creating the Women of Honor. Obviously, we talked to Mandy about that as well. But the other day, it was San Diego Comic-Con, and I think the best thing was how Becky Lynch put it. She was asked about women's wrestling, and she said that, yes, things are better, but there's still room to grow. And she's talking about how the women don't really have their storylines like the men do, and that women go out there and they have random tag team matches. Like one week it's Paige and Becky going against Natalya and Charlotte, and then the next week it's maybe Charlotte and Becky versus there's no continuity really, and you need that. And there are people out there that are ready for it, and look how many people were super excited whenever Bayley and Sasha were fighting in NXT, and when Paige was called up to the main roster, there is a definite need for women's wrestling and this void to be filled. This void probably since the time of, I would say, Trish, Lita, Chyna, some of those people, it wasn't necessarily looked upon the greatest. And that's not taking anything away from, your Tori Wilsons, your Stacy Keeblers, your Bella Twins. Like, they are athletic and they were good, but it was a different kind of thing. It was more just a filler and not necessarily to fulfill a need for women's wrestling. And I think we're there now. I think that as long as people keep speaking up, as long as people keep buying the women's merchandise, just as long as, they buy the men's stuff too, that we're going to get into this where it's going to be like 10 years from now, it's going to be silly that we ever were even talking about this. It's just going to be, women's wrestling and men's wrestling are going to be on the same level. And it's awesome. I think it's just absolutely amazing. About a year ago, there was a match between Joey Ryan and Candice LeRae versus, I think, the Young Bucks. And the Young Bucks taped thumbtacks to their boots and super kicked Candice LeRae. And there's a famous photo of her just, covered in blood. And it just goes to show you, like, women have come such a long way in this business, and it's a really refreshing thing, and it's awesome. And I think you can tell here that we are very pro women in at Another Wrestling Podcast.
Definitely. Now, Jonathan, a lot of things have happened this year for women's wrestling. Like I said, earlier, getting rid of the name Diva, getting rid of the Divas Championship, bringing back that women's championship. But now, like I said, with this roster, the brand split for at least WWE, you have a lot of girls on each side. Now, for guys wrestling, they have the United States Championship, the IC belt, the World Heavyweight Championship, but yada, 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 whatever. But now the women just have the Women's Championship. Do you think there should be another belt or something for the women to be chasing that maybe we haven't seen in years, or something maybe that could be brought about that's new for the women? I don't know. Do you see anything else, at least in the WWE, that could be brought up for the women to fight for?
Listen, I think that there is an opportunity, an amazing opportunity, and if you see this, you'll know that I am the one who came up with it, and that's fine. But we talked to Christina Von Eerie, and I had mentioned something along the lines of what they're doing right now with the Cruiserweight Championship on the network, is that they should go around finding all the best independent women's wrestlers of all time, bring them in, do a tournament with them, and then bring new blood into NXT, WWE, Raw, and SmackDown. So I think that's one way to kind of keep it fresh and keep things going. Also, we've had the King of the Ring for years and years and years. I think it's about time that we do a Queen of the Ring. And with that being said, also, why haven't we seen our very first women's Money in the Bank ladder match? I think it's time. And I think that these are all things that we could have to help move wrestling, women's wrestling, in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. On that, like I said, I love championships, man. They could bring back 20 championships and I'd be happy. I just love, I don't know, I love belts. You know what I mean? But for women, there's not too many choices. There's just the one women's championship. And like I said, they have a decent amount of women on the roster to where I think even they could bring back an old championship that they really haven't had around in years and decades, is the Women's Tag Team Championship. Maybe we could see some tag team matches. But once again, I want to split up a lot of these girls because they got a lot of good things going on their own. But, I don't know. You can't really make a women's IC belt or something. I don't know what they could do, but I'm sure the sky's the limit since they have the Universal Championship now. So I think they could at least come up with something else for the women, too, to fight for. But, I don't know. I think I love championships. I love to see these girls fight for something, like I said, there's like 50 girls fighting for one belt. Maybe they could add something else out there for them, but I don't know. Do you think there's anything else that's lacking today in women's wrestling, whether it be WWE, Ring of Honor, independence? I don't know. Is there something that's just still lacking with women?
Yeah, I just think that, like Becky had mentioned, I really believe that getting these women some amazing storylines. I mean, you saw the whole play out with the Wyatt family and the New Day, and you've seen this stuff with Roman Reigns recently and Seth Rollins, even like Breeze Dongo, like you saw where they did this thing where they got burnt in the tanning bed or whatever. Like these, as small and silly as these things seem, the women aren't getting this. It's usually women are backstage, somebody's getting their makeup put on, they're bickering back and forth, and that leads to like this huge feud. Like, why not have, you know, somebody come up through the ranks and talk about like Sasha? Like, look at, we've got like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn right now. How awesome would it be to, when Bayley finally gets pulled up on the main roster, that they do this whole thing about how the same thing basically. Bayley and Sasha promised that they would make it to WWE together, and what happens whenever Sasha came up first and maybe Sasha kind of turns her back, she doesn't call Becky as much. I mean, she doesn't call Bayley as much, and then they go back to the clip where, you know, she's talking to her, she's FaceTiming her after she won the belt and all this stuff, and it ends up being this great, like, good friends, better enemies type of situation. Like, this, I just did that off the top of my head. Like, there are a lot more talented writers out there. There are a lot more people with a lot more talent to come up with this stuff than me. But that's what we need. We need the same attention put on women's wrestling as the men.
Now, one last thing, and I just thought about this too, is that, you know, we've seen in other independent companies a lot of intergender matches. And even going back to years ago when China, you know, was the Intercontinental Champion, is it possible to where we could see the girls mixing it up with the guys soon? I'm not, and I know I could care. Honestly, I could care less if the women were fighting for the Intercontinental Championship. I don't know. Maybe that's decades from now. But do you think Vince McMahon will ever allow to have, like, maybe at least just a tag team intergender match where it's a guy and a girl versus a guy and a girl? I know they're not. I know you can't really legitimately have a match of like Brock Lesnar versus like Bayley, obviously, but you know what I mean, to where maybe they do intergender tag team matches or something. Do you think that'll ever happen? At least in the main spotlight of the land of the WWE?
I think with the WWE, it's very tricky. They're a publicly traded company. They're rated TVPG. And if you have that sort of thing where guys can hit girls and girls can hit guys, that it doesn't look great for, you know, a company like that. I think the reason that the independents can do it is because there's less restrictions, and, you know, people are more excited about these things that they can't always see on television. So I just don't think that it's in the cards for the WWE right now. If they do, it's going to be one of those things where it's like, you know, the Usos and Naomi going against, you know, a tag team and, you know, Emma or whatever. And, you know, only the women can hit the women, only the men can hit the men and that. But I just don't think that a lot of the people, you know, and if you look at a lot of the older people who have been in the business for a long time, they don't like it. And, you know, I'm not necessarily offended by it. I don't think that it's that big of a deal, but I can see it from both sides. And, you know, we've gone to a lot of independent shows. We've seen it. I definitely think there's a place for it in professional wrestling. I just don't know that we'll ever see it in the WWE.
Yeah, it would have to be like one of those things that are like once in a while. It couldn't happen. It couldn't be a weekly thing. It couldn't have like a championship out of it. It would have to be like, you know, once in a blue moon or once every other pay-per-view there's like a match like that maybe or something. But yeah, I could see. I'm thinking ahead to where, like, okay, now when they give women a chance, you know, it went from a Divas Revolution to a Women's Revolution. Now will they be able to fight the guys on the same level or whatnot? But I guess if you realistically want to build a match, you can't really have, like, you know, like I said, Brock Lesnar versus Bayley. You obviously know who's going to win, and then it's abuse, like a guy beating up a girl, and it's like, yeah, it's not going to be good for business. But I don't know. I'm just thinking out there. But if you're listening, tell us what you think about the Women's Revolution. Please give us a call at 802-297-7672. That's 802-AWP-7672. Give it a call any time of day. Leave us a voicemail, and the best calls will be played each week. But if you haven't If you haven't checked out our mothership, please head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com. You can find old episodes and links to every piece of social media landscape we live on, Jonathan. So anotherwrestlingpodcast.com, that's where we're at. And we ask people to call us, to email us, Facebook us, tweet us, whatever. This week, I'm going into the mailbag, and Jordan DePaula, I hope I didn't butcher that, Jordan DePaula, he emailed us. He says, I'm a huge women's wrestling fan and have been supporting it since I started watching wrestling. He loved the podcast with Molly Holly and Mickey James. He started watching wrestling when he was 6 years old, when his mom was flipping channels, and then there was Monday Night Raw. He said it was around 2003. It was Lita against Gail Kim with Molly Holly on commentary. He said this was the first wrestling match I ever saw, and that's the big reason why women's wrestling, particularly in the WWE, has a special place to him. It was a women's match that got him hooked on wrestling, and now every week he has to know what the women's division was up to. So Jonathan, Jordan is reaching out saying, women's wrestling got him hooked into wrestling. So what do you think about that, and how that started out for him?
Well, I first off want to thank him for sending in that email, and that is just how easy it is, folks. You call us, if you tweet us, if you text us, whatever you do, we want to talk to you. We want to hear from you. So I think it's awesome that, here's a guy saying that he loves women's wrestling. That may have been something that a couple of years ago you might have been a little bit of ashamed to admit. But, now with the way that it is, it's awesome, and the steam is getting going again. Business is picking up, as JR would say. So I think it's awesome. I also was a big fan of that era. Sadly, we lost Chyna, and she was a pioneer during that time. We had some amazing matches, and I'm looking forward to an era whenever we can look back and say, "Gosh, you remember in 2015, 2014, 2016, we had all those amazing women's wrestlers, and will it ever be like that again?"
Well, that's the show. We want to thank you all for listening today.
Every week we do the show free of charge for you, the fans.
And if you're wondering how to repay us, we have just the thing.
Subscribe to us on iTunes.
Hey, and while you're there, be sure to rate us and give us a good review.
If you're looking for more information about AWP, then head on over to anotherwrestlingpodcast.com.
We are all over social media, and you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and more.
If you are an AWP superfan, you can also show your support by going over to ProWrestlingTees.com/anotherwrestlingpodcast and buying one of our official AWP shirts.
We couldn't do this show without you, so tune in next week for
Another Wrestling Podcast.